Oh my God, I got the phlegm coming up in my throat. Oh, I sound more like Tom Waits than Barbra Streisand, which is good because I have with me someone who knows very well how to sing like Barbra Streisand. His name is STEVEN BRINBERG, and you can go see him live. Now, he has played well over, probably at this point, 1,000 different venues, playing this character, this personage of Barbra Streisand, including, let me tell you all the places that this man has been, certainly in terms of countries, Singapore, New Zealand, Hong Kong, Canada, possibly even Newark, New Jersey. He has performed with the likes of Marvin Hamlish and Barbara Cook. He is even, I want to ask him about this, in a movie called Next Year in Jerusalem. This makes me very happy. Won't you please welcome to the neighborhood, STEVEN BRINBERG, and unmute yourself. Shalom, Steven. We want to hear you. There you go.
Can you hear me? Can you see me? Papa, can you hear me?
Steven, can you hear me? Steven.
Okay.
Steven. Shalom, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. Look at all that. You still listen to CDs. That's so exciting.
I do. I've been actually singing a bunch of ones that I don't want anymore, but I still have thousands that I don't want to get rid of. I like the artwork, and I like being able to go, where's that CD, it starts with B instead of scrolling and scrolling, old school.
Old school. You're speaking of old school. You've got a Zoom that freezes a lot. This might get interesting.
Yeah, and I'm only a little black and white postage stamp, but you're in full living color, so.
As well, I should be. God damn it. Of course I should be in full living color. Now, let me ask you, all your CDs, or maybe you might be old enough to even go back to the era of record albums, which is the most, you have a signed copy of, like, Color Me Barbara or something. What is, like, your most precious?
I'm trying to think. I really always loved, the albums of Broadway shows when they had the gatefold cover that you open them up and there's all these beautiful photos and it's like that. So I don't know. I'd go through them. I have so many. And back in the day when I was little and they still had record albums, you'd buy a record album and I would play it like to death. So I knew every note. It was a big deal buying one. And then by the time CDs came in, I found I would buy them so frequently that I would have CDs that I never even heard to death and don't even know because there were just so many, the quantity. So I would savor each old album. It was a special thing. And as I used to say in the show, back then, you couldn't listen to music on your shoe. You'd put the album on, it would go ba-dum, then you would put the arm on, it would go tss, and then you would have to turn it over and take a break before you heard the second half, where you could either reflect on what you were listening to or have a sandwich. That's
I
what
do
I
both.
miss about albums.
Yeah. But let me ask you, what is your favorite all-time Broadway either show or cast recording?
Oh, it's definitely Follies.
Well, the Sondheim. Why?
Even though the original cast recording of Follies is abridged, it's amazing.
I can see Barbra Streisand doing Follies at some point. She would be just the right age now.
I've wished she would make a movie. She could still do it.
Now, let me ask you, at what point, and one thing I might end up asking you is, we can try this, we'll see how it goes, but try this maybe turning the camera off and leaving the audio on, because you're just, I don't know if that would help.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that would do anything.
No, but you want to see him.
I would love to see him, but he's
just less movement.
Still. Try not to make a movement, or if you do, have toilet paper ready in case.
Oh, okay. It'll be like when I had an MRI. Just be very still.
That's it. Make believe you're in the tube and talk to me like this. Like
here.
Shalom.
Yeah.
Ask him if he has another Wi-Fi network.
Is that better?
We don't want to lose you. I don't know if your Wi-Fi is good or bad. We'll just try not moving. Let's see how this
should be good. But...
Okay. I'll try not moving also. Okay. That might help. So let me ask you, I mentioned 600 performances as Barbara. That was 20 years ago. It was an article written about you that you had done the Barbra.
Yeah, I don't even know how many I've done at this point.
Yeah.
I just know it's more than she has because she hasn't done that many concerts and I've done more.
Look, many
all
more,
this time.
In recent years. Yeah.
So probably had more performances of Funny Girl.
How many times have you seen Barbra Streisand, the real one, in concert?
I've seen her a lot or not. I was at that concert that she did her band in Malibu. It's the first time I ever saw her. This was in it was called One, and it was amazing to be able to see her there. And then I've seen her recent concerts, of course. When I was performing in Australia, there was Marvin Hamlet. Of course, I knew Marvin in great seats, like near the front, and it was in the rain, so it was a really special night. See her with the rain and all these ad libs she had that weren't, you know. So I've seen her a lot. It's research.
I'm going to ask you. Let's try this. Can you turn off your video only?
How do I do that?
Or maybe another. Okay. Do you have another Wi-Fi network?
Let me see. I mean, it's the one for my apartment building. So,
they have one for barns and ranches.
Look at it. Let's see. I don't know. I think if I change it, we might lose this one. There's like a one that's for the building.
Wait.
Let me look.
It's like modem dial-up back in the day. Yeah.
No, it just says connected. Let me try the second one.
Yeah. If we lose, you just come. Try and come back to the Zoom room that we gave you. We're talking, by the way, we're trying to talk to STEVEN BRINBERG, whom you can see at Feinstein's 54 Below on Sunday, April 24th.
He put his website in the chat.
Yeah, his website is in the chat right now. So we're not going to. We want you here. You're talking.
Okay, I just signed into the other one. Is this any better?
Yes, it is. Thank God. Okay. All right.
There we are.
Halamai. All right. Are you Jewish, by the way?
Yes. On all 100%. 99.9, I think that's what the ancestry said. What that other one is, God only knows.
It's Barbara.
Well,
yeah. I mean, it's definitely the same region as Barbara. That's the reason I think maybe I can sound like her, because her mother looks a lot like my grandfather's sister.
Whoa.
So, who knows?
The photo album. Let's see. So,
yeah.
Now, you probably told the story 10 million times, but tell it 10 million and one. Of like just knowing you could sing is one thing, but then being like, I can sing like her.
Yeah.
And
well, I was always good at voices. In school, within a few weeks of starting a class, I could imitate every teacher and other kids, and I just was like a mimic. And when I listened to music, which was all the time, I just instinctively sang like the person I was listening to. Like if I would sing along to the record, I didn't use my own voice. I just sang like Barbara or Julie Andrews or anybody that I was listening to.
Stop right there, because obviously people can see you on being Barbra Streisand. Can you give us a little Julie Andrews doing something?
Oh, well, let's see. It's early, but
that's like David Stewart doing Julie Andrews. I don't know about that. But...
All right, let's see. The hills are alive with the sound of music, with songs they have sung for 1,000 years. There you go. That's Julie.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I worshipped Julie before I even knew who Barbara was, actually.
Oh my God.
So.
But were there also male singers that you imitated, or was it always?
Well, it's funny. I always loved Sammy Davis Jr. He's like my favorite, but I've never imitated him. But in recent years, I've included all these male singers like Anthony Newley, definitely Jewish, and Yves Montand. I'm not sure about him.
Maybe.
And Louis Armstrong is one that I added to my collection. So,
so come on, can you give us a little Louis?
Let's see. Well, hello. Look who's here, Dolly. This is Louis. It hurts my voice, but I can do him. I do Hello, Dolly, in the show sometimes as both of them. That's my thing, So I do Barbara and Anthony
Newley. But do you do the thing
where
you're Barbara this side and your hat black and you do Louis this side, or you just
Well, then I'd probably get canceled. But no, I just sort of face front and do it.
So what was the first Barbara song that you really nailed and interpreted as her almost professional,
It's
not just
funny. It wasn't a Barbra song, but my father had this album called Sing a Song with Riddle. And it was Nelson Riddle put out an album of just his arrangements that you could sing along to, like karaoke, you know. And the song was The More I See You. And I don't know why I connected with it. And I put myself on tape singing, the more I see you, the more I want you. She never sang it. She still hasn't. And that was the one, because that was what was available. Nelson Riddle didn't have Barbra songs on that album, though he did the arrangements for On a Clear Day, the movie, which are really fantastic if you listen to them.
Oh my God! And nobody watches that movie, but maybe the cast album I'll listen to.
Yeah.
So what are one or two of the absolute? You're not giving away all your trade secrets because they really can't. Even though she can be imitated, trade secrets can't be imitated.
Yeah.
But to do Barbra, what do you need? What is it?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't have done it all these years if I didn't think I sounded enough like her to make it convincing. Because it's funny, some impressionists would do her. Like I love Debbie Reynolds. She was so talented and she did Barbra. And I always thought when she did the singing, it was pretty close. It was pretty good. But when she'd do the talking, she sounded like Jackie Mason. She'd be like, you know what I'm talking about with this like nasal, and even like in that play Buyer and Seller, they're sort of like directed to, I don't know what you mean. That's not, Barbara's all about, well, I being kind of still and soft and,
Was she always? I mean, back in like the
well, yeah, maybe not in the early, if you look at her on early talk shows, like with Mike Wallace and things like that, she's more animated, but it's still, I don't hear that nasalness that people seem to put, at least not in the speaking, maybe in the singing. But also in the singing, it's not really a falsetto that I'm using. It's like a mix. So it's like, it's up in there. So it is going through my nose.
It's all
yeah. And that's why she said she never fixed her nose, because she didn't want to ruin her voice. And I don't want to fix my nose because I don't want to ruin her voice either. So I thought about it.
Now, you started doing the Barbra thing in for reals, what, more than 30 years ago at this point? Had to be,
well,
right?
Not quite, almost. Yeah.
But
I was 2 years old.
But you were significantly younger. Now
Yeah.
you are a middle-aged person like myself.
Yeah.
Do you sound different? Is there a different way that you approach Barbra Streisand than when you were in your 20s doing it?
No, not really. I sort of sing in the same place, in most of the same keys. A couple of the songs, sadly, like she has, I will say to my pianist, okay, we should start singing this a little lower. But because I always would do her in different eras, I'm still connecting to the same place. So in other words, if I do 1963 Barbra, it's, now you say you're lonely, you cry the long night through. 10 years later, it's memories like the corners of, and then 10 years later, it's Papa, can you hear? It's not that she just gets lower each year like singers. It's different placement all the time. She still at 80 has a lot of high notes. So it just depends on the song and,
In 10 more years, she'll sound like Louis Armstrong.
Yeah, or I will.
Yeah, no, that would be a terrifying thing to listen to. Thank you so much.
Wow.
Can I ask you, and I'm sure you've heard, have you ever heard from her? Have you ever met her? Have you ever had a good experience? Yeah.
I've not met her, but I've literally met and worked with just about everybody close to her, from Marvin to her director to her music people to her conductor. They've all seen me. They all know me. And because I've been doing it so long, they hired me to sing. Donna Karan had a big birthday party. Barbra was supposed to come. She couldn't make it. And they sent me. And Barbra told me what to say through somebody in
her people. So she can damn it, she could have given you a phone call for 30 seconds.
Yeah. Well, I think she apparently wrote me a thank you note, but she was given like my wrong address and I never got it.
Oh, so Barbra, if you're watching,
Feldstein got one, but I'm still waiting for mine. So
I'm so sorry. I'll send you one, and I'll just sign it.
Okay, yeah, it's just like a little scrawl, like
Now, here's a question. We're talking with STEVEN BRINBERG here. Oh, do you know what you must have been bar mitzvah? Do you know your Hebrew name?
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
I don't think I know it. And I knew my father's, and now I can't remember that either. Ugh.
I may
Yeah.
have to give you one by the end. If you're good, if you are nice to us by the end of the program, I may give you your own Hebrew name,
Oh, okay.
and then you can,
Thank you.
sing it like Barbara would. That would be
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed the singing part at the bar mitzvah. I remember that.
Now, since you have performed, let's say well over 1,000 times, what are some of the weirdest, funniest things that have happened to you while being on stage doing your thing?
Oh, one of the craziest was I was in Scotland at the Edinburgh Festival, and we're doing a show, and all of a sudden a fire alarm goes off. Woo, woo, and I'm from New York. You hear that and you're like, it's nothing. And then we had to evacuate. So I'm on stage, and the first thing I said into the mic before I left was, isn't there some sort of VIP escape route or something? And everybody laughed. So then I had to go outside the theater into the courtyard. So I'm standing. Yes. Yeah. And it's raining. And I'm standing with all of these people who were just watching me on stage. And I'm standing out there with them. Then it turns out, of course, it was a false alarm. So they let us back in. And I went in my dressing room. I fixed my hair. And then I walked back on stage. And as soon as I was at the mic, I went, as I was saying. I just sort of walked it back. So
when you were outside with all those other people, did you break character, or did you have to stay as Barbara just not to spell?
Normally during the show, no matter what happens, I will never break character ever. But in this case, I felt I needed to, so I did, and I just chatted with people.
You're a guy outside the theater at that point.
Well, I'm not like I think it was Jim Bailey, the famous guy who did all these great stars singing live. You apparently had to serve him dinner and say, here's your dinner, Miss Garland. And he'd go, thank you. And I'm always like, and sometimes people will say, what do I call you? And I'm like, I don't care what you call me, just call me. I'm not her until the light goes on and I'm in the spotlight.
How much of
even in the wings
of your performing career has been also just doing shows at like Jewish Well, no, there is no more Jewish repertory there.
I know, that was a great theater on 14th Street.
Yes.
I loved it.
And also American Jewish over on 26 was another good one. But,
and then wasn't there one on 91st Street?
Well, Jewish Rep moved to, it was on 91st, and then it went down to the 14th Street Y, and then
we need another one.
Yes!
It doesn't count for, I guess, diversity. I don't know. We need one.
No, maybe the Falashes could get a theater at this point, but not the regular Jews.
Yeah.
But what is your favorite? Oh, I have a question from the gallery.
Sure.
Why don't you just say it?
What's the funniest or the most odd participation from audience? Do people get
Well, do you ever talk to in your show? Do you ever include the audiences? Do you tumble with them? Do you ask, or do they sort of?
They're sort of, Barbara's sort of very kind of remote. So I used to reach out my hand and say, "You're so close, you could practically reach out and touch me, but don't do it." So if somebody shouts out something, which isn't often, I'll respond. But
you don't have a heckler or people who come on stage.
Yeah, I've had some hecklers, but I just sort of work with it. In fact, I remember I was I think it was Palm Beach, Florida, in a really fancy nightclub. And we had some really important people come, like the former governor, I think Hugh Carey was in our audience, and somebody else of note. And we had this one table of like European tourists, and they didn't know where they were. They just wandered in. And they're talking and being obnoxious. And, there's that moment of, do I say something, or does that make it worse? Or does the audience say something? And somehow, when they were being really loud, I was seeing people, and I got to acting more like children than children. And I stared at them, and suddenly they got it, and then they shut up.
Oh, bravo! Or brava, as the case.
But even like now, I have one song that I do sometimes where I'll ask the audience to sing along to this one number, but I say, you can sing along at this one specific part, just don't sing any other part or I'll get really angry. So they know, the Barbra personality. I remember once at one of her shows, in these arenas, people are screaming out stuff and not everyone can even hear it. And yet at one point they just started shouting stuff, and she just paused and she said, "It's a free-for-all," which I thought was funny. And then I was sitting way upstairs one time, and she was talking about having gone to see The Diary of Anne Frank on Broadway when she was like a teenager. And she said, I remember paying $5.50 a seat or something. And from that balcony, somebody screamed out $4.50, and she heard them. She went, yeah, $4.50. So
Wait, Gesundheit.
it's Louis Armstrong is still in there, and Yves Montand.
Hey, by the way, have you seen? It hasn't opened yet. It's going to open in a week or two. The Funny Girl that is being revived on Broadway with a Jewess named Beanie Feldstein.
Yes, I saw it actually a couple of weeks ago. I really enjoyed it very much.
Oh, how is she? You know, obviously you wish you could see Barbara in the role, but
Yes.
how is she compared to Barbara in the movie? How you?
Well, she's totally different. You know, it's a totally different kind of performance. And what's so exciting about it is just hearing that music. I haven't got that emotional since I saw Bette Midler and Hello Dolly. Just hearing that music, the kind of music that nobody's going to write again. So it was very emotional seeing it. And I also did the show once, which
Where?
was really kind of crazy, in Asbury Park,
Okay.
of
Makes
all
sense,
places.
actually.
Yeah, did the whole show. It was kind of crazy, but it was fun. And then they did a concert in New York about 20 years ago, where like 50 different people played Fanny, Kristen Chenoweth, and Sutton Foster, and I was one of the brides in the bride number. So I've actually done the show twice and actually heard that orchestra and heard all the scene change music that she heard, and it's pretty cool.
Can I ask you about, in terms of the Barbara, because her early work was very, not even Great American Song, it was show tune oriented. It was songs like
Absolutely.
Kander and Ebb and those people.
Oh,
How
the
did you
best.
feel about her 70s, like Stony End era?
When
where
she
she's
went
pretty
down the
much
Stony End, yeah. Well, I didn't really discover her till later in the 70s, so she had already been down the Stony End, but then was coming back with like Funny Lady and things like that. So my taste in music is definitely pre-Stony End. So I really think, like, even though I was too young to know a lot of it, the 60s to me are the golden age of that kind of music, both on Broadway, on in big movies, and on television, certainly variety specials. So that's the music I love. And I almost think if she had come along just a little later, she probably would have made it, but in a different way. She sort of just got in at the end of both the movie musicals, of the TV things, you know, because there's a lot of great singers, but they didn't get like Michelle Lee. I love her, and she's a great singer, and she was on Broadway. She started making albums, and it was after Barbara started, and one of them is all Broadway stuff, and then the other one is kind of like pops. They were trying to lure the kids that weren't interested in any way, and then she didn't really have a recording career. So Barbara's really lucky she came along when she did.
Now, let me ask you, in terms of coming along and being young and in a certain period of time, was it tough for you, a nice Jewish middle class? I'm assuming, was your upbringing middle class or?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So telling your parents, not only, Ma, Pa, I'm not going to get married to the nice girl next door.
Right.
Not only that, I'm dressing up as a nice girl. I mean, how did that go for you?
Well, it was funny. The first time I got all dressed up, I wasn't doing the show yet. I was like a guest in someone else's show. And my father came down to see it. And my friend always says he saw it. He sat with him and saw it. And he was like first a little startled. And then he just became my greatest fan. It was sort of like Papa Rose, you know. He would come to both my parents came to every show that they could see. And, you know, they traveled to Saratoga and to Tampa and, you know. So yeah, no, they loved it because they both loved music and showbiz, and in another lifetime, I think they both would have been in it.
Oh man, this is wonderful. And are they still? Have they left you?
I lost both of them a long time ago, unfortunately. So it was really sad they never got to see me with Marvin Hamlish.
Okay,
because they would have loved him. Oh my God, he was.
Tell
just
me a Marvin Hamlish story. Tell me an anecdote. Something.
Oh, he was such a great guy. I've never met such a famous, important person who was so down to earth and normal. I mean, I've met far less important people than him who think they're so important. He was just so normal. Like in the wings, we were finishing up a run in, I guess, Milwaukee or somewhere like that. And he said, are you coming home with us? Are we all flying home together? I said, no, I'm coming home the next day. And then there was like a storm or something to come back early. And I said, no, I was going to change it, but the airline wants too much money to change it. And he like handed me like cash in the wings. He said, you can change it. You can fly with us. And then we flew with him. And this was like a small plane. I don't even think they had first class. So Marvin's just piling in with the commoners. And then he's sitting in another seat. And then he's like falling asleep. And like nobody even realizes who he is. Just amazing person. The time I spent with him, it was just amazing,
Now, is it the way we were? Or do you have a favorite Marvin Hamlish song or something that we wouldn't expect?
Oh, yeah. God, he wrote so many wonderful songs. In fact, I produced 2 concerts celebrating his birthday. This was, I guess, it's almost 3 years ago now. I did one in LA and one in New York. And the gems that he wrote that people don't even know, there's this really lovely song from the Goodbye Girl called What a Guy. And we had Jennifer Westfeldt, who did Kissing Jessica Stein, who's a wonderful singer. Some people don't even know that. And she sang that song. It was just beautiful. I mean, he just wrote the most beautiful songs. And I would ask him sometimes, like, he wrote a lot of scores for films, obviously. A lot of those Neil Simon movies, like Prisoner of Second Avenue and Chapter 2. And they have beautiful melodies and no lyrics, no songs. And I would say, you should turn that into a song. It's beautiful. And he would sort of like fluff it off like, oh, really? Like I almost think he almost wasn't even aware of what a genius he was.
Sometimes that's the best thing.
Because again, so down to earth. We'd go to in some city. He said, we're all going to go out and get custard after. And he would like drive us to this place to get custard. And then what I really remember, once we did a show in San Diego and Barbra had a new album that had just come out, this really nice album. He hadn't worked on the album, but it was a new album. And I said, have you heard her new album? He said, no, she didn't send it to me. And I went out to a Sam Goodies in San Diego and I handed it to him. And he said, I'm going to listen to this on my trip. Thank you. I thought, wow, that's nice.
Let's do something opposite. You've been saying these marvelous things about marvelous Marvin Hamlish.
Yes.
How about telling us, especially if they're dead? Well, let's dish a little bit. Who is a little a little above their boots?
There's somebody who's awful, but he's not dead, so I can't tell you that story.
The initials, what are the initials? And the story.
I'm trying to think of who is dead who was awful.
Well, not I've one who is terrible, but you can just do the first name or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. Most people have been pretty cool. And a lot of famous people that I've worked with, like Sondheim and Terrence McNally, and people have their moments. Everybody does. Sure. But I'm trying to think of I don't really have a real horror story.
Good.
I guess I've been lucky. I mean, I never want to be difficult or anything, and I pride myself on that, because when you work with people who are, it's just like, oh God, why you know what? You're not curing cancer.
What?
When somebody's being impossible and they think what they're doing is so important, performing, and it's like, you're not curing cancer. Don't take yourself so seriously. But some of them do, unfortunately.
My performance cures cancer. I've seen it. Where I go into hospitals with sick people.
Yeah. Music is the best,
First I give them cancer and then I take it away. I have that power. But you mentioned Stephen Sondheim. Tell us a nice story about working.
Oh my God, he was amazing. He came to see my show and I could see him laughing and hear him laughing. And then he wrote me this wonderful note filled with all these comments that were like quotable. So I said, can I use one on a flyer? He said, well, if I let you use one, then I have to let other people use ones, and I don't want to do that. So therefore, I'm just going to keep burbling to everyone I know about how wonderful you are. Good. And I thought, wow. And then each week, somebody else important would show up at the show and say, Steve sent me, Arthur Lawrence. One after the other. He even said in a note, expect Mr. and Mrs. Harold Prince soon. They never made it, but he tried, So, and then I was doing one of his songs, and I was rewriting the lyrics to talk about James Brolin, Barbara's husband. And, Sondheim, if you ever changed his lyrics, was very sensitive. So I said, I'm going to send it to you first and see what you think. So I sent it to him, and he made some more suggestions. And then I performed the song, and I tried there was a joke in it. And I thought what I had written was funnier than what he was suggesting. And he said, well, try them both out and see which one gets a bigger laugh. And I did. And mine got the bigger laugh. And I told him that. And he said, well, then by all means, use it. Then a couple of years later, it was one of those birthday concerts. And they asked me to sing. And at the 11th hour, it suddenly seemed like I was not going to be in it. And this was like at a very stuffy place, and it's 20 years ago. And I thought, oh, they're freaked out by the costume, which people often are, because they think, oh, you must dress like that 24/7 or whatever, you know. And I'm like, no, it's just, I'm not in drag, I'm in character, I'm in costume. So then I called him, and he knew that they were kind of getting cold feet about including me. And he said, it wasn't a big resistance. It was more like a series of little resistances, but I put my foot down and you're in it. So I'll always be grateful to him for that, you know.
You make this distinction between between impersonation character work versus drag. Do you look down? Maybe look down isn't the word I want, but
no, it's something very different. See, back when what I do was sort of really all there was in drag. You know, there was Jim Bailey and Charles Pierce and all these elegant people that were on the television variety shows, you know. Then the whole sort of drag just for fun, whether it's lip syncing or being outrageous or whatever. So it's hard to separate the difference, you know. I mean, there's room for everybody, but people see a picture and think, oh, is that, you know, are you going to come into the audience and sit in people's laps? I'm like, no. You know. So some places that I've tried to play are like afraid, you know, which is sad. And then the other end of it is like some sort of gay places will think I'm not outrageous enough. So like, you know, there's one JCC will think I'll be too outrageous. And then one gay cruise will think I'm not outrageous enough. And it's like, okay, to start a new genre.
But mazel tov that you've been able to hit the sweet spot between, you know, enough places know, oh, we're going to get an hour and 75 minutes, 90 minutes of Barbra.
Right. And you can take children. There's no foul language and nothing.
The hell with it then.
You know.
I love the foul language.
Well, in Yiddish, so not everyone will understand it.
Ooh, can you verse in Yiddish as Barbra? I would love to hear.
Oh my God. I have to think about it. Just little words here and there. I used to keep like a book of all the Yiddish that I knew. Because, you know, you can't buy a dictionary like Spanish. There's just the joys of Yiddish, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I just remember whatever my grandparents used, you know.
Now, we've been talking, by the way, with STEVEN BRINBERG. I'm going to have to go in a moment or two as soon as our players of the game decide to get here. Hello, it's like a Jewish 10 o'clock for them. It's
yes, right.
6. Where the hell are they?
Check your phone, Rabbi.
I did. One of them says they're trying to get in, and
right.
I don't see them. There's no one wanting to be admitted yet. And then the other, so we're kind of vamping here.
We'll talk.
I'll just do a vamp.
Vamp's already.
A hot singular sensation. So let me remind people though that they can go see STEVEN BRINBERG.
Ask him if he couldn't be Barbra, who would he be?
Well, yeah, if you
nobody he's doing now, totally new.
Like if you had to pick one other singer that
besides Barbra.
Yeah, other than, would it be Michelle Lee? Who would it be? Julie Love?
Oh, you mean to imitate or just my favorite?
No, to do. Like if you were to do a show.
Oh, I would say the one that I can do as well as Barbra in a completely different part of my voice is Cher.
Oh.
But I've never done a whole show as Cher because I just don't like the music that she does. It would be kind of tedious to do all that dance music. It would have to be Cher sings Broadway.
All right. Can you? I hate to do. No, I don't hate to do this to you. Can you give us a little bit of the Cher?
Yeah. Well, this is Cher singing from Mame, which Barbra was going to produce at one point with Cher playing Mame. So Cher would go, "Light the candles, get the ass out," and then Barbra goes, "Get the ass out." You know. So it's like.
That's I'm going to get my ass out of here, but not before telling you that STEVEN BRINBERG is going to be at Feinstein's 54 Below doing Simply Barbara on next Sunday, not tomorrow, but next Sunday, April 24th. And it's
Barbara's
7
birthday.
o'clock, the 8 o'clock show.
9:30.
9:30.
9:30.
God, I'm asleep by then. What the hell? I'll
You
stay
gotta
up.
go from Funny Girls opening to my show.
Now, I've been to a few Funny Girls openings, and they weren't pleasant. But, you know,
No.
9:30 p.m., April 24th, at Feinstein's 54 Below. You want to get your tickets at 54below.com. And
That's right.
Look in David's email. Stan sent a picture of the rabbi and Sammy Davis. You might want to share it with your dad.
all right, let me, when Dave comes on to do the quiz in a moment or two, I will do that. So first of all, that other person in the room right now is David Sheward, theater critic, former managing editor of Backstage Magazine. He is also a critic for TheaterLife.com, CulturalDaily.com. But Dave will tell you all about this. Meanwhile, if and I hate to impose upon you, but can you give us a little taste, Steven Brindberg, of like a song that you're going to do in Simply Barbara on the 24th while I vamoose and bring Dave out from the toilet where he's been for half an hour. So could you, thank you so much for being with us, but don't go away, Steven. Please sing for us if you don't mind.
Okay, this is a song that's in every show I've ever done and ever will do. Okay. Memories like the corners of my mind, misty watercolor memories of the way we were. There you go, morning version.